being outlaws is in our DNA. That's what it is to be American. We're always the rebel opposition. We're always outnumbered. We're always hated. We're also feared and respected. I wouldn't have things any other way. I'm having a good time.
All right, and we're live. Welcome back to a special stream hosted by the NathanaelGreeneSociety. Tonight is going to be part one of a two-part debrief on the East Coast Forum event hosted last Saturday, October 25th, 2025. Tonight we're going to be covering the event itself. We're going to get into some of the speakers and generally the progression of the event. So first question, gentlemen, is how did it go overall?
I'd say it went absolutely fantastic. We had a lot of folks coming through, just finding anybody that looked like they were running the show and telling us that this had gone fantastic for them. Lots of compliments. Everybody was very impressed by anything from the manner of dress that our gentlemen brothers were in attendance were wearing, to the speeches, to even just the location itself. Overall, I'd say everybody came back through with a lot of inspiring thoughts at the end of the day.
Overall agreement. I think there's only one small blemish we can talk about later, but everyone I talked to was very happy and impressed with us. And yeah, definitely want to do it again and invite the same people and see some more new friends as well.
Fantastic. So the event was structured around a series of speeches and then some meals in between. So who all do we have out at the event, Mr. Wallbanger?
Well, as far as our speakers are concerned, we have one of them here tonight with us, Mr. Impresario. But before I introduce him and his speech, we had our Vice President of the Old Glory Club itself, Mr. Evandale Shallow, speak to us about the question of the American Empire and our inheritance of it. In it, he kind of went over an overview of the situation of America as its status as the global hegemon, and if we, really take ourselves seriously and mean what we say about becoming the next elite, then one day it'll be people like us, or perhaps us ourselves, that are in charge of such an empire. And what should we do about that? How do we prepare ourselves to become worthy of it? Can we even handle it? And, is the current structure of it something desirable that needs to continue, or are there alternatives for reform? And it was a very in-depth speech that I'm looking forward to seeing the written version of, so I can refer back to in the future. Anyone have further comments on that first speech?
All right. Guess we can move on to the second one.
Yeah, well, I don't think there's anybody better to talk about that one than the man himself, Mr. Impresario.
All right. You got me. My speech was, in simple terms, about the very essence of what the charge is before us, which is we have to build for ourselves, for our people, a political vision that is not distracted by the failures of long since dead European regimes. And these regimes actually created and enforced a totalitarian state. And I drew a through line to compare it to what a fascist state looks like in the current day, which is Sweden, ironically enough. But ever since 2019, Sweden has word for word copied the exact same labor and industrial and economic model of fascist Italy in the 1920s. And it is not working out for them. And it did not work out for fascist Italy either. And it is extremely foolhardy to think that you will gain any long-term friends or win any long-term success if you start wearing your keywords on your armband. What we should focus on instead is, of course, to look to the future and to look to our heritage as Americans if we need inspiration.
Fantastic. Yeah, that speech was excellent, framing the economic model of the failed regimes of the past. And
there's more to it than just the aesthetics.
Yeah, certainly, and portraying the continued modern day failures of an old regime. I never would have thought to frame it through the lens of Sweden in the way you did. I thought that was masterful.
Well, I did that because I actually lived there for a long time, and I experienced it firsthand, the impact that it has on society. And perhaps I, better than anyone else, can actually speak to the evils that brings, because there never was any public debate in Sweden on whether or not to adopt a Swedish translation of the Pact of the Vidoni Palace. It was just carried through. And then you have, as a result of that, the chief judicial officer in charge of enforcing what is broadly termed the Swedish model, saying outright in an interview in, I believe, late 2019, early 2020, that the primary purpose of his organization, the Mediation Institute, whose decisions cannot be appealed, by the way, there is no legal process by which his decisions can be appealed. And he states outright that primary purpose of this institution is to suppress wage growth.
Fantastic. So after Mr. Impresario's excellent speech, what do we have next?
Then we had our resident Southern gentleman, George Bagby, tell us an amazing speech about, American identity and storytelling. In it, he said 3 P words. You'll have to forgive me. I'm gonna butcher this. Related to the Latin root word patria, that is patriarchy, patriotism, and patrimony. And he elaborated on all 3 of those using the story of Odysseus and his return to Ithaca as the backdrop. I'm not going to do it justice recounting it by words, and expect to see the full speech soon in audio format. I can't wait to have that one available for re-listening, because I think it was my favorite speech of the event.
I have to agree with you on that. That was my favorite. Several of my chapter members that attended, as well as some guests, said likewise. They were particularly moved by Mr. Bagby's speech, and the way that he intertwined his theme on the rule of fatherhood, or the rule of fathers, with the story of Odysseus was magnificent. And you can really tell, especially in his mannerisms, just how enthusiastic he is, and hopefully that carries over into the recording of the speech.
I can certainly say that any single time that I've had the opportunity to speak to Mr. Bagby, he has by far impressed me with both his attitude and his personality. As far as I'm concerned, anything coming out of his mouth is worth listening to. Anything he puts his mind to and puts his practice to is surely to be blessed. And frankly, I was rather surprised we were able to get him for the event. It made me very happy to hear about. Once we got there, that was shown that, yes, everything I knew about Mr. Bagby was indeed true. He was a man worthy of respect, as far as I'm concerned.
Certainly, and that seems to be the consensus, as Mr. Son of Hastur says, sending it to his father when he, as soon as he can. Absolutely, I've had several guys ask already if this one will be recorded so they can send it to their family members. Got a lot of people looking forward to it.
Just briefly on the topic of Mr. George Bagby, he is the proprietor of Tall Men Books, tallmenbooks.com. And if you want to support him and his work, buy a book. Go to tallmenbooks.com.
All right. Any more comments on Mr. Bagby's speech before we move on?
Yeah, I wanted to just say that's actually the speech that my wife was the most impressed with, which is interesting. It's also the one I was most impressed with personally. Whatever, granted, I didn't get to hear the speeches in their entirety, none of them, but just do my job at the event. But to what I heard of it, it was really, really good, and even my wife thought of it as really, really good.
Absolutely, same thing here. My fiance commented on it. That was the only speech she commented on in particular, about how moving it was. Among a series of great speeches, that one was particularly fantastic. All right, so after Mr. Bagby spoke, Mr. Will Tanner came up. Mr. Wallbanger, would you like to describe his speech?
So yes, Will Tanner is a dedicated Rhodesia appreciator, and in it, his speech, he compared Rhodesia and Virginia and their shared framework and foundation of how when the Anglo is unleashed, when true hierarchy is embraced and the false god of equality is dead, wonderful things can be created from scratch, from wilderness, from savage lands that are tamed into the most beautiful and orderly places on earth. That being, of course, the antebellum South, Virginia, and Rhodesia. And then he went on to compare the virtues of the men that created both of these places, the founding fathers, the founding stock of Virginia, and great men like Ian Smith and Cecil Rhodes of Rhodesia. And yeah, it was a great speech. Also just a total banger and hyped us up and made us hungry for more. I can't wait to reread that one as well. All of the speeches will be available in written format with the exception of Bagby's, which will be audio. Yeah, any other comments on Mr. Tanner's speech?
I believe he said something about continuing to develop it once it's in
Yes.
written format. I'd be interested to see what direction he takes that in.
Yeah, I believe all of the speakers that chose to release their speech via written format are going to revise and add to the content of their speech, which is awesome. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that as well.
Much like my brother here, Mr. Timothus, I unfortunately did not have a lot of time to listen to the speeches myself due to the many tasks I had to manage at the event. However, I can say that the beauty of the wilderness of America is something that resonates with me very deeply. I, for those who are not aware, come from the deep south of Alabama, raised from a Tennessee family of deer hunters. Unfortunately, my father was a very busy man. I was never really able to really get into that part, unfortunately, of my history. However, there were many times that he would take me hunting, and I will say that until you learn how to properly get through a forest and be able to learn to sit quietly in it, you really cannot understand the level of beauty that the American wilderness holds until it realizes, or at least until it forgets that you are no longer there and have an opportunity to come to life once more. Anything that teaches on these principles, as far as I'm concerned, is doing the Lord's work.
Absolutely. Mr. Clean Mars joined.
That's Marshall Ducat, actually.
Yeah, it's fine. It's fine. Yeah, hello. Yes, hello.
So right now we're regaling Will Tanner's speech, and then we can rewind and give you a chance to talk about the other ones that we just got finished. But regarding Will Tanner's speech, do you have any comments?
It was good. He rushed a little bit on time, and
yes.
He knows this. I told him that, and he said he had already gotten that. I told him some advice, considering I've done a bit of public speaking, some good advice I got one time was basically, however fast you think you're going, slow down, and you'll be fine. That's like good advice for the average person, because the average person is just going to regurgitate what they can remember as fast as they can to get it over with, right? So I think that unless you're someone who notably talks slow, the best advice is to just always remember to slow down.
Will is an experienced orator, and I'm pretty sure he knows that. And this rushed, pace that he was talking at is entirely my fault. I didn't tell him that he didn't need to rush, but what happened during the event is that I switched his time slot with George Bagby's time slot, because I was going around asking the speakers, ballpark, how long is your speech? And Bagby said an hour, and Tanner said 20 to 30 minutes. And so I looked at the schedule and I was like, wow, Bagby's not going to fit that speech in his time slot that I gave him. So I switched them. Tanner may have taken that interpretation of, hey, he needs to hurry up or something. And I guess I didn't clarify on my end, and I deeply apologize to Will. I'll give you a full hour next time. Yeah. And following each speech, well, let me back up for a moment and give Ducat here a chance to speak on the previous three speeches. So there was first Evandale Shallow's speech on the question of empire. Did you have anything to add
It was very good. It's obviously a very controversial subject because of the millennial reflex that I participate in against neoconservatism, which, by the way, is deserved, given how disastrous that was. I thought it was good. It was thought provoking. I still believe that the Monroe Doctrine is pretty much good enough for America. Good enough, and I believe another questionnaire even put forth the idea that if we followed the Monroe Doctrine and essentially controlled both American continents, that would cover everything we need basically in all resources. So I think that is the way forward for me.
Yeah, I'm gonna put Evan's response to your statement right there in my own words. It's not enough that we should win. Others should lose. Okay?
Fantastic.
Yeah. I think specifically there is an exhaustion of American blood being spilt for causes that are not worthy of the American blood.
And I mean, you are essentially correct that the Monroe Doctrine would be enough to secure American interests indefinitely if we just retained control of the Western Hemisphere. But that's not enough. And I'm coming around to his view that maintaining the American empire, even as a global hegemon with bases all around the world, is...
Well, I'm prepared to be like the Ron Paul of the OGC and be like the Dove. I'm ready to do that.
Amazing.
Although my position would require supporting any action in Venezuela. So.
Well, you won't have to wait long for that.
Yeah, I know.
All right. Well, it's probably plenty for the speeches before they all get released. I'd like to pivot a little bit, and in doing so, we'll read off our first super chat of the night. This is from Mr. Bolero393 for $5. He says, "Good evening, Patriots. Excellent work pulling off the first OGC regional event. Sounds like a massive success." It absolutely was, and the success came down to the men who organized it. We had a very solid group of staff and organizers. In addition to the planning and the actual execution of the event, we all showed up very early. Very large contingent showed up early, made the setup incredibly easy, made things flow very well. And then that carried over throughout the event with all the gentlemen working in their various stations. So would anyone like to touch on that aspect?
I absolutely would, and I'd actually take an opportunity and not even talk about the staff that came up for the event, but rather just the guests that showed up in the first place. We had a third of our guests show up at about 15 minutes before we even had access to the building just to come and help. So we managed to have 3 times the level of staff we thought we have for setting up before we'd even started the show. Thanks to that, we were able to get everything done. I think we were, 15, 25 minutes earlier than we were anticipating to get everything done.
Yeah, you are correct, Zenrath. To kind of build upon that, the secret sauce to that success is that there was a person in charge for each area of setup and operation. There was no part of any of that happened was ambiguous on who was running what. Like, whose responsibility is the check-in area? Whose responsibility is AV? We all knew who it was. And at the second we hit the deck, and on top of that, who is the most responsible of a whole event? That was also already talked about. So we had a bunch of bodies and we put them right to work, and they were willing to work, and they just needed direction. And that's how everything happened extremely fast and very competently.
So true, Melon.
So
true.
And
many are saying this. Many are saying
and there was such a spirit of cooperation and if something need to get done, 5-6 guys swarm the area to get it done, right? Like, for example, the adventure with the backdrop, right? Trying to get the backdrop right. That took like 2 or 3 tries to get that done. But there was a group of us, and we were there till it got done.
Yeah, it was funny kind of watching that out of the corner of my eye while I was autistically programming radios in the other corner.
Yeah, we also had on site 2 wonderful vendors. MS Vendrillo of Hartford, Connecticut. He is a haberdasher, and he makes custom high-quality garments for men. So we had him set up his shop on site with an available selection of fabrics. If people wanted to get their measurements taken for a suit, you could place an order with him. He also had a various collection of trinkets and ties, suitable to be worn on a nice suit. And yeah, we love that guy. He's got the highest quality stuff, and it's all American made too. That's the important part. Does anyone want to talk about our other vendor?
Absolutely. We had one Confederate shop local to Virginia, I believe, and you can correct me, Mr. Wallbanger, if I'm incorrect.
Based out of
You're correct.
Harrisonburg. Correct.
Fantastic. He came in with a large assortment of heritage books, heritage apparel. We had some very wonderful Confederate ties that he brought. We had a whole series of books. He even was kind enough to gift me a book about Thomas Jefferson, which I'm going to have to spend a good amount of time reading slowly and carefully. By far, one of the most interesting men that I've had an opportunity to meet. And I was very grateful that we were able to have him as a vendor. And I highly recommend anybody going out to his area should, in fact, go visit him and buy some of his stuff. It's fantastic.
Yes, we are blessed to have people that run such businesses in our organization. And I talked to them both privately. And yes, the guests made it very worth their time. So thank you for all the guests who patronized their business.
And if I'm not mistaken, the Confederate shop gentlemen are both members of the Stonewall Society and the Vetus Dominium Club.
That is correct.
Fantastic. It's great to have these vendors in-house.
Hopefully the first of many.
Absolutely. Let's talk about the venue itself. I thought it was a beautiful, beautiful spot in a great park, great scenery.
My only regret is not being able to walk the backdrop because we just didn't have time between the event and because at the national event you could go out and sort of explore the wilderness a bit, and I did that with some guys, but we really didn't have time to Thomas and I were remarking on the fall beauty behind us, and Thomas was like, there's probably like great trails back there. I was like, yeah, there probably are. I
can confirm as a local. Yes, there are very good trails back there. I've been to that park a number of times. Take my family out there. And yes, it is unfortunate that you guys, especially this time of year in Northern Virginia, it can be unbelievably pretty. So I do regret that as well. Maybe next time we'll see about it.
Yeah, we'll include mandatory hiking breaks in future events.
Yeah, I mean, for those who did make the trek, including some who may be listening, some who not, you haven't lived till you've walked, not driven, walked to like a huge waterfall. It must have been like 2-3 miles in like a suit, like a full suit. And then, yeah, it was something else, man.
That was crazy. Yeah, he's referring to the national OGC event.
Yeah, but, yeah, of course.
Regarding this one, the Piedmont area of Northern Virginia is home to some of the richest counties per capita in the whole country. It's the belly of the beast, but it is also significant to us because it's also one of the earliest colonized and settled places in the state and in the nation. It's only fitting that we have the first regional conference in that location. It's our heritage and we're taking it back. We're going to fight for every inch. Not a single step back, only charging forward.
Absolutely. And I'm sure a lot of our guys got to do a little exploring around either before or after the event. I know several of my men and I, we were able to go around places such as Old Town Alexandria, visiting George Washington's church, and then we had some others go to the Manassas battlefield, among others. So plenty of opportunity for sightseeing while we were out there. The locale of the venue was fantastic for that.
As a small side note, I'll actually add that Old Town Alexandria was the first place I was able to experience a member of the OGC.
Excellent. So we have another super chat, gentlemen. This is from Dan Given for $10. Said it's his first OGC event. How soon is the next event?
Well, I think I could speak for everyone on this panel. All of us were event organizers in some capacity. We all had our own jobs in the planning and preparation of this, and we'll go into detail of what that was in part 2 on Clossington's channel, I think on Thursday. But yeah, I'm exhausted. I think I'm going to wait like a full calendar year before I care about throwing an event. I don't know. Maybe your North Carolina boys can do one sooner than that.
Yeah, there's plenty of opportunities. I think the plan for the East Coast Forum is to sort of rotate the hosts each year in the regions as well. I think we kind of agreed on staying in the sort of Central Virginia, Northern North Carolina region just to make it feasible for the most amount of chapters to come out.
I think the Mid-Atlantic generally.
Yeah. Absolutely. So maybe next East Coast Forum, same time next year. Be on the lookout for that. As far as other, large OGC regional events, we haven't really nailed down any more conferences like this one, but the momentum that we sort of got from this event is definitely going to carry forward, and I think we're going to see significantly more events like this propping up, around the U.S. Maybe quarterly, maybe more often than that as we go forward.
Yeah, I agree completely. And speaking as the chair of the speakers committee, we were on the cusp. We had a great cast, but we were on the cusp of like some very interesting things that I imagine the next time we try it, we will get. And that's what I'll say about that.
There were certainly many opportunities for improvement for the back end of things. We won't have to go into that with too much detail here, but I will guarantee you that the next time will be even better than the inaugural East Coast Forum. I guarantee that.
Well, simply put, that is the charge before us.
And to bring a bit of encouragement to build on what you said, Zenrath, that's a good thing because everyone was extremely impressed how well the East Coast Forum went. And I am too. I think we all here agree with that. But the fact that we can go and there is still so much more improvement, that's a good thing. That means it can only get better from here. So yeah, that's something that we'll all discuss later in private. But to any of you listening who are looking at something this ambitious, that's the attitude you take with it.
You can, in fact, just do things. You can, in fact, just host your own event, guys.
I think some of the most encouraging things that I heard about this event, we were talking about this before the stream, but some of the comments from families, wives that attended, and so forth, that we're able to finally see in person, what we do and what we're all about, and just how impressed they all were. That was incredibly encouraging to me.
Yeah, my own wife, she, and also another lady, not doxing anyone, so I'm not going to say her name, but both of those ladies were instrumental in the labor it took all day to serve all of our guests. Um, my wife basically was working for the event up until like the last like hour, checking people in, doing all kinds of other tasks all around. Funny thing, we didn't officially have anyone to handle like dishwashing, so we had to have people to do that, and that wasn't just my wife, but other people jumped in as well to help with that. But yeah, it's there's something to be said there. Speaking of the ladies, like my own wife was like just blown away about this is what my husband's been up to for like a year. It's like, yeah, this has been up to for a while. So uh, she's been talking to me nonstop about the OGC since the event. Uh, that's all of our conversations have been about the OGC, and I'm glad to hear not just my wife but all the other women who did show up. And yes, we broke a record, gentlemen. Record breaker Foids, which is great. Um, that's a good thing. It's a very good thing, because if you take a look at other fraternities and fraternities of the past, it wasn't just the dudes. It was also their wives were helping them facilitate the operation of the fraternity. So we need our ladies, our good ladies, our good patriot ladies to step up and get behind us. But we have to first do the work. And we did the work. We put off we ran an incredibly good event. And they were like, whoa, something was built. Women love when we build things. And we built something very beautiful. And so I encourage any of you listening to the sound of my voice who was at that event and your lady did not attend, please consider in the future, next event you see pop up, please bring them. They'll also be impressed, and trust me, when we get to the work of trying to save the nation, we need every possible way, every possible thing that will help us in that. Anyway, I'm off my soapbox, and I'll let someone else speak on that matter.
Yeah, this actually relates back to the content of Bagby's speech. He challenged all of the men in the audience to become fathers if you're not already. We only win if we have the next generation, after all. So yeah, that's kind of a personal challenge that I need to work on myself, so that next time I will have a woman to bring to these events.
Yeah, well, there are many in that scenario. One thing I would say that I didn't say, and I don't mean this as any criticism of the question or the answer, but there was a moment that was notable where a woman came up during the presidential panel. I'm sure you remember, Harvey, where she came up and asked what the women could do, basically, for the good of the OGC, which I thought was a good question. And some people gave some good answers, but I won't lie that there was something in my head for that, and that was essentially matchmaking. There is a dearth of men in the OGC. I've noticed that are not married for various reasons, and given the way the culture is today, given dating culture and everything, if you can, if you're a wife of a member and you can alleviate that for a member, I mean, not only is that a great thing to do, but that's a bond that you build for a lifetime, right? I mean, if I could tell a brief story, I'll tell the most abbreviated possible, but I saw an aunt of mine like last year, I hadn't seen in a while, and she had a medical condition that she was recovering from, and some people came to visit her that I knew, and they were married, and I was like, oh, how do you know my aunt? I didn't expect to see you there. And then my aunt's like, well, I made them meet, basically. She arranged for these two to meet, and they got married when they were all younger. So I didn't know that, and it's that sort of thing that we should bring back. Anyways, that's what I have to say.
Yeah, I wish I had thought of that response on the spot. now that the women that have attended have met us, I'll echo what Ducat just said. Unfortunately, a huge portion of us are in fact single. If you would like to help us solve that problem, please arrange for, your single friends to meet us if they are value aligned. And yeah, reading not me, not you's comment here. Essentially, this is the second part to that.
Mhm.
I would foresee in the future kind of like a sorority version of the OGC being a thing, just a woman's mirror version of us, maybe called the Betsy Ross Club after all. Who knows? But yeah, the main issue is getting the women to show initiative and organize it themselves. It may take a man to create the women's organization. Who knows? But yeah, that's something I would like to see eventually as well.
All I can say is stay tuned.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, if anyone here has a serious FOID inquiry for Harvey, just send us an email. We'll forward
Yeah,
everything
I'm
to him.
accepting mid-European princesses that need a green card. Just let me know. I could be reached on Twitter and Telegram. Yeah.
Please take your opportunity to be the wife of the first chapter president, Harvey Wallbanger.
So true. All right, but enough busting the balls. One thing we didn't really cover was the event theme. The theme was called The Charge Before Us. This was directly inspired by Carl Dahl's speech that he gave at the National Conference back in May, titled The Power of Friendship. The video recording you can see on the OGC's main channel. I highly recommend you go check it out. In it, he regaled the tale of the Spanish Civil War and what the Spanish right was doing in the lead up to the onset of hostilities. Now, this is a club of peace. We do not advocate for violence, but it's good to have friends, right? And one of the purposes of this event was to align the various chapters of the Old Glory Club and also open up new connections with other aligned organizations outside the club. And, we invited various esteemed individuals that have been on our side of things for a long time. The exact names of which I will withhold unless they choose to announce themselves publicly that they attended our event. So I'll leave the ball in their court on that. So I don't want to be clout chasing over who we managed to, get to attend our event.
Patriots attended our event, of course.
So
True.
true.
Well, I have to ask then, gentlemen, and maybe we get a couple different answers. But what is the charge before us? What does it boil down to?
Simon, you want to take a crack at it first? Impresario.
Well, as I alluded to earlier, the charge before us is to define the path for not just the political right in America, but also to define.
Oh, he cut out there.
The path for what society in America will look. And we have to figure out what to do with that, how to approach that, and how to build on that for the future. And we can't take this task lightly, because if we don't rise to the occasion, other people, less worthy people, will. And they will rule over us, not with benevolence, but with malice in their hearts. So it's on us to get this right.
Yes. For me personally, the charge before us is to make the Old Glory Club the cultural vanguard of America, so that everyone, can rally behind us and become aligned on values of saving American heritage and preserving, our interests indefinitely, restoring the rule of America to its rightful inheritors. you could say.
I suppose for me, the charge before us, I took as more practical, though you two gave excellent answers. But for just the event, the practical reason for the event is to develop the networks of patriots. If you are not yet familiar with a certain John Doyle, that's terrible. Fix it now. You're not a patriot unless you do. Um, that's what he recommends is it's time to get in proximity of patriots, and that's what this event did bigly, is to get us in proximity to fellow patriots, and that's at least the most practical objective of the East Coast Forum, the charge before us.
Pete Canones, he touched on this too last week, where he said very beautifully, you cannot build effective organizations with people you have not built social capital with first.
Hear, hear.
And in that regard, I think this event was a smashing success.
Absolutely. As far as I was concerned, we had over 100 people in a room, all aligned to a singular goal. Any event that you put on, any conference you hold, any even drunken fun in a bar somewhere with the boys, if you are aligning your goals together and getting in tune with one another, you are creating a success in that regard. Always seek to align with what is truest in this world and seek to align others to that as well.
Certainly. We have a few more super chats to read out. First one is from Bolero393. Continuing on the subject of the women, getting the women to take responsibility and show initiative. The GOP establishment will represent real Americans over its donors before that happens. We're working on that. We're working on it.
Big sad.
And then from Mellon, I think this is a very important one. So Mellon says, I'd like to add that the most valuable part of these events, in my mind, are meeting in the smaller groups afterwards. Don't cut that short if your schedule, etc., permits. People let their guard down more at that point.
That is absolutely correct. If you can afford the time, arrive early and plan to leave late. Ours was a single day event. If in the future there are multiple day events, perhaps arrive a day early and leave an entire day later.
Yeah. My suggestion, just like Harvey's saying, come a day early. Do not wake up at 3 a.m. the day of and drive 5 hours. Try to maximize your time while you're there.
To prove that actually did happen, we had like the last hour of our event just open. Like we concluded, the closing remarks happened. It's like you could stay here for a lot longer. Venue closes at 10, and most people stayed an hour and a half after. And then we had to, very politely tell the stragglers, we gotta go.
Oh, it wasn't polite. It wasn't polite. For those that didn't get to experience it, we had the audiovisual guy put on some death metal.
Oh man, it was great. Let's go. We just need a next event. We need to open with that. How about
that? Was a wall banger special.
I was just gonna say that was my special request. I was like, come on, get these guys out of here and get me dancing. Yeah, the last thing we did before we closed, though, we'll briefly touch on it, was the president's panel, where I invited up fellow OGC chapter presidents, and we had an open Q&A session that was opened by Jay Burden asking a couple pre-prepared questions, and then we opened it up for the whole audience to come ask whatever they wanted. I'm struggling to remember the questions that I was asked on stage, so I was just focusing on not screwing up. But if you guys remember any particular ones, go ahead. I know Ducat mentioned the woman that asked, "What can women do?" But other than that, were there ones that stuck out to you guys?
I can't say I remember a particular question myself. I was rather tired by that time. Maybe the details are a bit hazy, but I can tell you, if you're ever on a panel, one thing you should try to avoid is having a cough while you're in the middle of the panel and you're surrounded by microphones. I swear someone must have thought I had a seizure with the amount of coughs I was trying to hold back in the middle of people talking.
Well,
So true.
I guess you did a good job of hiding it because I was sitting right next to you and I couldn't tell. So
I will take that as a compliment, a wonderful compliment. Thank you, sir.
The panel now, unfortunately, I missed pretty much all of it. I saw like the first like 15 minutes, and then it was I had to work to make sure all of you guests were very well taken care of. But to one thing I will say that was kind of crazy is we had a huge time block for that panel, and questions were being asked even until like the last minute.
yeah,
So
I
there
was honestly not expecting that. I was thinking, oh, this is going to go like 30, 45 minutes.
because we left
No,
a
it was
huge
like a
amount of time.
full hour and a half. And
Exactly, and it probably could have gone even longer. So there's that's another thing. Earlier in the stream we were talking about guests and how the quality of them. That's the quality of guests that show up to these things, is that they are showing up and they are engaging with their speakers and with their panels. It isn't like we clap and we all sit down and we sit in awkward silence. We're waiting for someone to answer or ask a question. Oh no, our speakers aren't all, or our guests are not like that. They're going to ask their questions, even challenge our panels and speakers, which is a very good thing. I thought that was very powerful to see that happen.
Some of
Yeah.
our guests love asking 15-minute long questions.
yeah, no, there was one character in particular that would get up to the mic and then ask like 3 questions at once. And I'm like, I talked to him. I was like, bro, one question at a time. Okay. But yeah, no, I had to cut off every single Q&A section after each speech because people just kept standing up and I'm like, okay, last one, got an event to run here. We can't just keep talking to George Bagby. But yeah, it was awesome.
Maybe that's something we can look at in the future, having some sort of a I don't know, a poll we put out where we let people ask questions and have some sort of another president's panel on a stream, because I'm sure there were a lot of questions that didn't get aired out at the conference. But just something to think about.
Sounds like a fantastic idea as far as I'm concerned.
And just for the future, for anyone else listening to the sound of my voice who is ambitious enough to put a regional event on, I would like to argue that that was probably the best part of the whole event. The speakers were amazing, but the fact that we had local presidents that all showed up and they got to go through the, just bare reality of working a chapter, living your chapter, living what was it like being the OGC, and our guests having the opportunity to talk to them and see the different experiences between all the chapters, because every chapter is a little bit different. And I thought that was extremely powerful to show that the OGC is not, it's not just your chapter is competent, like your brothers in another region are also doing incredible things. And we got to see the entire thing out in display. And that was, that's extremely encouraging.
Absolutely. Well, gentlemen, are there any closing remarks before we end the stream?
It was a pleasure to be the MC of the event. I forgot to mention that. I don't know if
I was just going to say, you can just do things, and if you just do things, people will show up for it.
Yeah. The men of this panel were a large portion of the men responsible for planning the whole event. Shout out to the Bluestone Heritage League, who co-hosted it with my chapter, the Vetus Dominium Club. Without, I think there's probably 10 or so key people that without any single one of them, the event as a whole probably wouldn't have happened, or it would have been way less good. Yeah. So thank you all. And we'll be in touch.
All right. Well, like we said at the beginning of the stream, this is part one of a two-part series, debriefing the East Coast Forum. Part two will be on Mr. Clossington's show on Thursday, I believe at 7 p.m. Stay tuned for more information on that. Otherwise, gentlemen, it's a pleasure having you all on, and good night.
Good night.